Thank you, Megan. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Police Headquarters for a very important day in Toronto Crimestoppers history, and in the City of Toronto, actually. We're going to embark on a very important campaign to address the problem of human trafficking. And though human trafficking encompasses several crimes, it means different things to different people. Let's be clear. We're talking about when some young person is forced to sell sexual services against their will, through coercion, intimidation, and violence. The victims are among the most vulnerable in society, and the perpetrators are the lowest of the low. We're embarking on this campaign today with the support of many people, including our friends and partners in many of our campaigns, DDB Canada, who I will introduce you to in a short time. So we have a few speakers with us today, and we'll get right down to business. I'd like to introduce our guests. Chief Mark Saunders, happy to have you here today, Chief. Sean Sportun, the Vice Chair of the Toronto Crimestoppers, who's really did the heavy lifting on this campaign for us, along with Detective Chris Shirk, our police coordinator. And Dave Forster, President of Canadian Crimestoppers Association, is with us. We're also joined by the Human Trafficking Enforcement Team of the Toronto Police Service, our board of the Toronto Crimestoppers, York Region Crimestoppers Board is with us today. Peel Crimestoppers is with us. DDB Canada, of course, and Christina. Christina, do you want to give a wave? Where are you? Come on up here so people can see you instead of hiding back there. DDB have done great work in putting this campaign together for us. Covenant House is here. Boost for Kids is here. The Provincial Anti-Human Trafficking Office is here. Canadian Centre to End Human Trafficking is here. East Metro Youth Services and the Guelph Wellington Crimestoppers program. So you can see how this program resonates and how important it is to the citizens and the organizations across Ontario and Canada. So we'll just get right down to business, and I'll introduce to you our Chief of Police, Mark Saunders.
Thank you, Gary, and also thank you to York and Peel for being here, brothers and sisters, for the same cause. Human trafficking is a growing concern, not just in Toronto, but in the GTA. And the Human Trafficking Enforcement Team is here today, and they do a fantastic job. And each and every day, they have to figure out different techniques in order to help solve these types of crimes, to eliminate these predators that are out there on the street. So far to date, they have arrested 24 people. And not only is it a matter of the enforcement team working alone, but in order to be successful, they have had to have strong partnerships with all of the organizations that Gary has mentioned earlier. And together with the partnerships, they've prioritized a victim-centric approach, which has led to the rescue of 25 victims to date. These victims could be your daughter, your sister, your niece, the girl next door. And less than half of these, or more than half of these victims, are under the age of 16. Those are the stats for last year. These are girls that are coerced into the sex trade and are held under the influence of drugs, intimidation, and violence. The money that is gathered is used for criminality by the pimps, and these pimps are earning approximately $250,000 off these young girls. But enforcement is not the only approach. Awareness is something that is key, as well as education, if we're going to be successful in reducing and eliminating human trafficking that's taking place in our streets. So once again, the Toronto Crimestoppers has come forward with a great appreciation to DDB Canada and Tribal Toronto. They have come to the table with a solution. On behalf of the Human Trafficking Enforcement Team, thank you very much for your support.
Thanks, Chief. I mentioned our Vice Chair of Toronto Crimestoppers before, Sean Sportun. Sean has worked tirelessly on this campaign. He's been a real tenacious supporter of getting the campaign done, working with DDB, and in conjunction with our police coordinator, Detective Chris Shirk, we're happy to see it come to fruition today. So, Sean, would you please come forward and say a few words?
Thanks, Gary. And thank you to all the community partners that have come here today to support the launch of this campaign. and the media for coming out as well and covering the message. Chief Saunders, thank you for your continued leadership and support of the Toronto Crimestoppers program. Before I begin, I would also like to recognize a few people. First, to the members of the Toronto Police Human Trafficking Enforcement Team. Thank you for your dedicated work you do to investigate these cases, specifically Detective Sergeant Trementozzi and Detective Correa, who made themselves available to provide valuable feedback to DDB that assisted in the development of this campaign. MPP Laurie Scott, who could not be here today, but has been involved in the campaign development since day one. Thank you for your partnership, support, and all the work you are doing to bring awareness to the issue of human trafficking through Bill 158, Saving the Girl Next Door Act. Finally, to our friends at DDB Canada and Tribal, thank you for your continued partnership in developing first-class awareness campaigns in our collective efforts to educate the community on crime issues for the purpose of enhancing community safety. Human trafficking involves the recruitment, transportation, harboring, and/or exercising control, direction, or influence over the movements of a person in order to exploit that person, typically through sexual exploitation or forced labor. Individuals and/or organized criminal networks carry out this type of crime, operating within Canada's borders and internationally. These traffickers reap large benefits while robbing victims of their freedom, dignity, and human potential. Simply put, this is a crime against humanity, and as a community, action needs to be taken. We have all heard these headlines. October 18th, 2016, 32 people charged with 78 offenses in Canada-wide human trafficking investigation. April 21st, 2017, 104 men were arrested for purchasing prostituted children in a sex trafficking investigation that lasted 4 years. May 30th, 2017, a 19-year-old Toronto woman is facing 10 human trafficking charges for allegedly coercing another woman into the sex trade. July 21st, 2017, arrest in human trafficking investigation, man 26, facing 13 charges, and girl 17, facing 8 charges. Police are concerned there may be other victims. And most recently, in the U.S., July 24th, 2017, 10 dead in horrific human trafficking operation in San Antonio. It is clear this sort of activity is happening right in our own backyard, in our very own city, across Canada, and across the U.S. Recognizing this, and with the victims and community safety top of mind, Toronto Crimestoppers engaged the creative team at DDB Canada and Tribal Toronto to develop a proactive campaign to bring awareness to the issue of human trafficking. The campaign will consist of 3 poster concepts, as you can see here today, with a clever design intended to engage the community to stop and find the hidden image. That image is a discreetly placed scene or sign of human trafficking within the patterns of the 3 different hotel room fabrics, that being wallpaper, a curtain, and bedding. As our tagline indicates, human trafficking often hides in plain sight, as do the signs. And we want the community to be aware of those signs. The posters will be strategically placed on transit shelters, transit media screens, elevator media screens, on social media ads, and other print media formats around Toronto, the GTA, and throughout other areas of Canada. The campaign will also have an online presence, as you can see here, called Hotel de Jeunesse, which means in translation, Hotel of Youth. As you will see, the website will represent a mock hotel with information about the signs of human trafficking to help educate the public on the issue. This awareness campaign is aimed to create discussion, educate the average citizen on the signs of human trafficking, let traffickers know the community is taking action, and lastly, to provide the community and/or victims with a conduit to relay anonymous information about this type of crime to the police by calling Crimestoppers. By working together as a community, with creative campaigns like this, Toronto Crimestoppers will continue to make a difference in the prevention of crime while enhancing the overall safety of our city. Remember, you remain anonymous, criminals don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. I'd now like to ask Dave Forster, the president of the Canadian Crimestoppers Association, to say a few words. Dave?
Good morning. On behalf of the 87 Crimestopper programs that blanket all of Canada and stand united in this cause, I bring welcome. Crimestoppers is truly a global tool with over 1,200 programs serving 26 countries around the world, taking anonymous tips from civilians on everything from human trafficking, terrorism, wildlife, environmental crimes, and everything in between. The UN's Office on Drugs and Crime reports that human trafficking is one of the fastest growing criminal enterprises in the world. The United Nations also estimates that there are currently in excess of 36 million slaves worldwide, and that the market value of the human trafficking is estimated to be in the neighborhood of 150 billion US dollars. In Europe, it's estimated that criminal networks are earning about $2.5 billion per year through sexual exploitation and forced labor. To help stop human trafficking, we encourage you in your communities and those from around the world to use our anonymous reporting platform to provide information to the criminal networks, that are involved in this heinous crime. Crimestoppers globally provides an online option to the public to report human trafficking, and it is anonymous. I would like to congratulate Toronto Crimestoppers and their partners for taking the initiative to develop a campaign that will assist Crimestopper programs in creating awareness and education on this worldwide criminal activity. Your leadership and innovation will assist all Canadian Crimestopper programs in engaging their communities in the fight against human trafficking. To Gary, Sean, Chris, Martin, and the entire Toronto Crimestopper board, I want to bring congratulations and thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Before we open it up to questions, I have one little bit of side business. If Karen Kennedy from Boost is here, I'd like to see her afterwards. And what I'd like you to do is, we have a bunch of supporters in this room, in government and police, in social agencies that are fighting this horrific crime. We're launching this major campaign. We hope we can count on you, our partner in Crimestoppers, the media, to trumpet this far and wide and keep on it. Two key facts you should just remember, if I can just leave you with this. You all got families. They might be your kids, they might be your nieces, they might be your nephews, it might be your grandkids. We all have families. Just remember, the average age of a girl forced into the sex trade is 15 years old. And girls in the sex trade are forced to sexually service between 7 and 10 men every single day. So please, help us in this campaign. The Chief's here. Sean is here. Dave is here. Questions?
You mentioned some of these warning signs. What are the warning signs?
Detective Chris Shirk, our detective in charge of the Crimestoppers office.
Thanks, Gary. So the human trafficking guys are really the experts on this, but we identified some key things. They are on the website. When you go to it and you click on it, there's probably about 20 different points or so, but and they're not to be taken independently, right? It's just to educate somebody for what they're looking at. So some of those things in a vacuum might seem innocent. When you take 4 or 5 of them together, they often point towards human trafficking. And it's just things like having like multiple hotel card keys or keys, somebody like that, that's not normal. The do not disturb sign up for a length of time, that's not normal. Things like that. We just invite you to have a look at that website. Yeah, I mean, they're up right there. Asking for a hotel, I mean, for the service industry, asking for a hotel room that backs onto the parking lot, unless you're, loading a lot of sports equipment, that's not normal. So things like that are just some of the things we're looking for.
The campaign starts today.
Yeah, this is the launch.
You said that there are 24 arrests to date, beginning this in January.
Yes.
How are they being recruited, generally speaking, of these young girls?
Online. Most of it's happening online. There's still some of the old-fashioned stuff meeting people in various public places in the city and befriending these people, telling them that they're the best for them and they'll look after them, and they sure do look after them.
Who's most vulnerable to become a victim?
young girls coming to the city, or being out in public places at night, just maybe a little bit lost, a little bit confused, a little bit looking for some direction and looking for some affection and attention. And it happens, things are promised and dangled in front of them, and they succumb to it.
How did you come up with this idea of this campaign? It's quite clever, the imagery, and what is it you hope people do when they see these images on the subway or on bus shelters?
Well, Catherine, it was all my idea. No, it wasn't. The board, our Toronto Crimestoppers board and the Toronto Police Service for quite some time have wanted to address the issue of human trafficking. We've worked in the past with DDB Canada. Once again, Christina, where are you and everybody? Which is one of the leading advertising agencies in Canada and in the world, actually. They've worked with us on award-winning campaigns like Cash for Guns and Cooking with Molly and all the things we've done. So we decided to meet with them, and they said it's our next priority, which our board of directors decided it would be, because it's such a horrible crime and it's really affecting so many lives, not just of the children, but of their parents and society as a whole. And we went to work with Christina and DDB, and they came up with this with us, and we thought it was great, and here we go.
Gary, if I may, maybe Mark can answer that question from a creative perspective, how we came up with the strategy, if you're okay with that?
Sure. And I'm sorry,
Marquette.
Marquette, come on up. From DDB. This is like a creative person.
Hi, I'm Marquetta Crivy. I'm the creative director at Tribal DDB. To answer the question of where this campaign originated, actually when we started working on it, there had been an article that came out about young flight attendant essentially busting human trafficking in progress during the Super Bowl. And when we read a lot of the comments that people were sort of commenting on this, heroic kind of effort, because she admitted that, she would have normally dismissed it. A lot of people were saying, you know what, I would have never known to question this couple. And essentially it was an older man with a very young, quiet, shy-seeming young girl. And something tweaked in that flight attendant's mind. So it sort of sparked conversation at the agency to really think about, these signs are hidden in plain sight. And a lot of us can sort of dismiss when we see the signs really easily because we think, oh, well, maybe she's just with an older man, or, oh, maybe she's just in an abusive relationship. And, working on it as a mother of two very young girls who are fast approaching teenagehood, it really struck home to really think about how do we create a campaign where we can sort of educate Canadians to become the eyes and ears for Crimestoppers and really be diligent about looking for these signs, which again are so easily dismissed if you don't know what you're looking for. So that's really the genesis of this. And then in terms of the digital campaign, we also know by working with Sean and Chris and the Crimestoppers team that there are certain hotspots where human trafficking is most prevalent. So places like airports, hotels. So we really targeted the digital campaign to target people who are in the travel mindset, so that again we can arm them with those signs to look for, so that when they are in those hotspots, they're sort of diligent and their eyes and ears are open for signs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Numbers, estimates worldwide, any idea how big the problem is in Toronto/Ontario/Canada?
I don't have the numbers, but I think someone here has the numbers for the last few years. Chris, do you have them, or Sean? That form you gave me, there's in the last several years, the arrests and the charges.
I don't have them handy for the
We can get them for you.
Are we talking about victims that concentrated in suburbs or downtown, or is it just sort of widespread?
It's widespread. As a Toronto police officer for many years, we were quite aware of the issue of human trafficking, and it was done in a more public way back in the day, where people would be sort of, these characters would hang around somewhere like the bus terminal and find young men. But it's gone dark, it's gone online, and it has no boundaries.
Is it fair to say they're targeting women that go to shelters as well? Is that?
I can't say that specifically, but they're looking for vulnerable people, so that's a reasonable assumption. But, you know, they're targeting very young people.
Is the digital format available online for us, or
Sean?
Sorry, what was the question?
will there be a copy of that?
Yes, we have CDs for you guys, yeah.
Great. Thank you very much for coming. We're really looking forward to getting some bad people off the street. Thank you. And saving some young lives.